everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast pre-US Grand Prix edition. Yes, we finally have some Formula One action coming back to our screens this weekend, and Tommy, especially the WTF1 founder, giving it 2 thumbs up. How you doing, Tommy? You good, mate?
Yeah, I'm
Simply
good. Looking forward to F1 again.
Yeah, got your little Simply Lovely hoodie on.
Indeed.
Wow, that was a posture change. If you're an audio listener, that was quite aggressive. And of course, the WTF1 author ferociously finishing off the WTF1 annual, Katie Fairman. How is it?
Yeah,
how are you?
It's looking good. Had a brainstorm session with Ollie. He's the guy that's designing it earlier this week, and I'm telling you, it's full of so many good things. You better get it because it's looking so good.
Looking fire, but don't set it on fire as a book. There'll be a link in the description if you want to go and pre-order it, and you'll get it before Christmas if you live in the UK. Like guaranteed, isn't it? That's like a guarantee.
I'll hand deliver it if not.
You shouldn't.
That's a big promise.
That's a big promise. Anyway,
whilst Katie,
Katie really didn't want to be making that promise to you all. Let's talk about what we're here for today in the podcast, and that is Free Practice 1. We've got a whole host of new faces coming onto the track, and I feel like we need to talk about them because I don't know, Tommy, you are a bit of a thesaurus when it comes. Thesaurus? No. Wikipedia? No. What's the one? What's the big book?
Encyclopedia.
That's the one of Formula One. When's the last time we had so many new faces, do you reckon? Like, just going back. You don't have to give us a real fact, but...
well, this is probably the most we've seen until they did, I think back in like 2006, they had like this Friday session where like all the test drivers would run. That's when it was always different every time. And we don't get that anymore. So now FP1, we do see the odd person come in like a Kubica for like sponsor reasons or this.
Nick DeVries.
Nick DeVries doing
FP1 this year.
Every single team. But yeah, it's funny that we've got so many, and also not surprising because I think we mentioned on a podcast not too long ago that it's getting very close to the end of the season. And let's not forget that every team has to do this with both cars. And a lot of teams still haven't even decided one of them. Alpine. I wonder why.
Because
what could have possibly... because...
A strange thing that's gone on, haven't they?
Because I'm busy, guys, that's the real reason.
You're busy. Yes,
I am, yeah.
Yeah, you are doing the annual. So
I said you're going to have to wait, hon. The annual is more important than doing an FP1 session, I'm afraid.
They saw your karting video and were like, we need to get her in the seat. Right, let's talk about our first driver in this lineup. We'll go to McLaren and Alex Palou. Is it Palou? Is that how you say it? Or Palou? So I know that people are like, Alex Palou. That's very British.
Very posh.
That's what they say on the IndyCar coverage, so I'm just going to assume it's right. But
commentators can always be wrong, but we'll stick with that. So, of course, he is driving for McLaren after signing with them. He's tested a Formula One car a few times, hasn't he? Barcelona, which was back in, when was that? September? Was it September? Something like that. And then again, he tested it at the Red Bull Ring. And will get his debut in a proper Formula One session this weekend. Of course, he won the IndyCar Championship last year. And you have to say, he's quite a competent driver. He's shown some pretty decent form over there. And of course, McLaren, I was about to say McLaren wouldn't sign anyone willy-nilly, but then they have been signing everybody.
Everyone and letting everyone. They let Mario Andretti in the car the other day.
Yeah, which was amazing.
Very cool.
That was around Laguna Seca, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, what a circuit for a guy in his
80s, isn't
age.
He?
Yeah, well, is he 80 something?
I think he's 80 something. You have looked that up. But Alex Palou, he
82 driving I know it wasn't a modern Formula 1, but it's still
a Formula One car.
A Formula One car round Laguna Seca at 82 years old. What a hero.
You know you've made it in life when that's what you're doing at 82 years old. But yeah, you have to say that Alex has definitely got the credibility to have a go in a Formula One car. And this is probably the one I'm the most excited to see, is an IndyCar driver, a a champion from IndyCar to have a go in the Formula One.
Yeah,
box.
I'd agree with you. It's always a fascinating debate to see, because we've never really seen it too much, and there's always a big debate of would an IndyCar driver be good over here, and there's a lot of talk of IndyCar drivers going, oh yeah, you know, an IndyCar driver can go and be in Formula One really successful, and you've not really seen that since Jack Villeneuve way back in the 90s. But the modern drivers we don't tend to see go from IndyCar to Formula One, for example. But there's been a lot of talk about IndyCar drivers going to Formula One, because Colton Herta, of course, was now it's Nick de Vries that gets rumored to every single team, but once upon a time ago, 3 months ago, whatever it was.
Wow.
I don't know
that long ago, but
it
feels like it.
It feels like it's been a crazy season of lots of different stories. But he was rumored to be going to every team. He was the most sought after driver in Formula One. Everyone wanted to get him in the car. So it is quite funny that McLaren he was so desperate, and then they've gone, right, we're going to put 2 IndyCar drivers in. None of them are Colton Herta, but it is going to be fascinating to see what he can do. And it's going to be a great opportunity. Can't really tell too much from a free practice session, of course, but if he's there doing the work, and we'll obviously get to hear from what McLaren say afterwards. Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. It's going to be probably the most fascinating one, because you don't tend to see that an IndyCar driver come into Formula One. It's very much you IndyCar drivers have taught the talk about how you can come into F1 and be fine. Here it is. Let's do it. It's a very different series.
I love how we also treat them as like they're a different breed. Like, yeah, these IndyCar drivers, they won't be able to drive a Formula One car. When you look at IndyCar onboards and you go, if anything, they have to wrestle and control
a lot more. They've got a lot more. Yeah, it's Formula One is very much like the technical side. I think was it Palau? No, it was Pato Award.
Palau.
Also...
Sorry, it was Palau a minute ago. Now it's Palau.
Palau.
Potato, isn't it?
It was don't change it mid-podcast when you've just taught me.
Palau? Could we have this another one?
Yeah. I think the thing with the IndyCar F1 debate, it always seems to be the IndyCar drivers, like Formula One drivers that go over there go, oh my God, like, yeah, no power steering. It's really physical. And the physicality comes from the fact that you're wrestling the steering wheel, just watching on board, and you're like, oh my word, this is insane. And then the physicality from the Formula One side becomes where it's not obviously easy to drive, but like light steering, you're throwing it into corners, but it's your body is the thing that absolutely wrecks. And that's something that Pato Award said, that he was like, my neck was absolutely killing me after just doing a test session. So
it's interesting because when we spoke to Grosjean in Miami, he said that he had to train his arms so much more because of going to IndyCar. So it's crazy how they have to change. What do you make of Alex, Miss Fairman?
Well, I don't really watch much IndyCar. I know Tommy's like our IndyCar expert.
IndyCar correspondent on the ground.
Yeah. But I certainly know who Alex Palau, whatever we're going to call him. Below there.
I'm gonna Google it while she talks.
Yeah. Well, why is that? But obviously he was somebody who was like the OG Oscar Piastri with the contract fiasco. That's actually kind of how I got to know who he was, which is, like you say, it's slightly embarrassing because he literally won the championship, the IndyCar championship last year. But yeah, he was the guy that was signing with McLaren, but then Chip Ganassi also said that, no, we've got a deal with him. That's who he won his championship with last year. And it's an interesting situation. He's now going to be racing with Chip Ganassi next year instead of McLaren. So Felix Rosenqvist will be remaining there. But yeah, certainly very exciting talent. And like you say, quite relevant at the moment because we had all of the chat of super license points and things like that. And how when you compete in IndyCar, there are so few super license points you can get into F1 compared to other series. So if he can come out and instantly be really quick in that McLaren, which could be an interesting feat because certain other drivers in that car have struggled this year. It will be an interesting comparison.
Sorry, we shouldn't talk about it, should we? Because you've only got 4 races left.
Yeah, I don't want
how are you coping?
I'm kind of just a little bit in denial,
He just arrived on a horse, and I was like, no, that can't be because it's his last race at the USGP. It's because he just likes horses. Like,
exactly. Just, enjoying the Texas vibe. It's nothing else.
Yeah, as I said, I think in a previous podcast, I will also be probably brought to tears in the final race. So it'll be a very emotional group chat for sure.
Talking about that horse thing while we're on the subject, it's quite funny because I'm pretty sure one of Katie's predictions was like he'll do the all-out American thing, and I think we were having the discussion of will he or won't he, because he's not had a great season. Is he going to go into his last race and want to be all kind of a bit jokey with it? And he's gone even more extreme than normal and just gone, screw it. This could be my last US Grand Prix, all out. He was only missing like waving an American flag as he was coming in for the complete look.
But you wouldn't think he's Australian, would you? Right. It's incredible. He absolutely loves the American culture. Yeah. But yes, big shout out to Horsey McHorse as well for making an appearance in the paddock. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a rule that says they're not allowed animals in the paddock.
Yes, but as we know, Formula One can bend the rules when necessary.
Well, I know this Roscoe's an exception, but
yeah, Roscoe's a dog, Tommy, not a horse. Okay, that's where they draw the line.
You might be able to smuggle Roscoe like under a coat or something.
So what you're saying is Frank has a chance.
Yeah,
Frank has always been accredited, actually. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. I myself have tried therapy before, and I can absolutely tell you it's worth it. Just feeling that huge weight lift off your shoulders is something that can change your life for the better. Less stress, more confidence, and just having that spring in your step. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/WTF1 today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/WTF1. Right, moving on. Ferrari, let's talk about them. And Robert Schwartzman is going into that seat. Yeah, I mean, he's been in Formula 2 now for a few years, hasn't he? He's been with Prema. He was one of those which seemed like he was trying to be fast-tracked into a Ferrari-powered team for quite some time. But then you have to say bottled the F2 championship when Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott were fighting and basically didn't want to win the title. Neither of them wanted to win the title by the end of the season. And you think Schwartzman, who did have, wasn't terrible in Formula 2 by any stretch, but just seemed to tail off at the wrong time. But I think, again, this is a great opportunity for him to at least show the Ferrari team what he's made of. I think it's crucial for all these rookies. They don't make any crucial errors. Otherwise, you may as well just say goodbye to any hopes or dreams of being in Formula One. But yeah, obviously this whole Formula One bringing this rule in is to give young drivers and young talents the opportunity to drive a Formula One car at an F1 weekend. And I hope Robert Schwartzman takes it with both hands because, he seems like a nice guy and pretty decent in what he has done, but hasn't done a Leclerc or a Russell or a Norris and stolen too many headlines.
And Schwartzman's definitely an interesting one because off the back of last year, he was Piastri's biggest rival, I guess, for that title. He came second and it was like there were lots of people talking about him, about his potential future in F1. And then over the winter break and such, we obviously had the awful situation with everything going on with Russia and Ukraine, and then all the sanctions that came with that for Russian drivers. Robert Schwartzman was a Russian driver. He's now changed his nationality. So he can be back in the Formula One circles again. But yeah, he was, like you say, came fourth in the year before. So in 2020, the Ferrari website says that he won 4 races that year, which was the most of any driver, which obviously Ferrari, and because he's part of their driver academy, is going to pick out all of the good bits. But yeah, he's currently a Ferrari test driver. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on this weekend. I think it's very likely that he'll also do another FP1 session later this year, because they haven't really got a long list of rookies that they can call upon that has the experience to do the FP1 session. So
I am available.
Are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm open for any conversations Ferrari want to have.
Slide into Mattia Binotto's DMs. See what he says.
Well, to be fair, we did an F1 manager video recently, and me and Tommy really showed how badly we run a Formula One team. So, in fact, he
go
has
watch that.
out.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
No, he hasn't reached out yet. I wish.
Yeah, Robert Schwartzman was, I'd say, very hyped, and I think if you look at his career, you know, he was finishing like top 3 in championships in everything. Won obviously the Formula 3 title, went into Formula 2 and was good as a rookie. And then, like Katie said, just missed out to Piastri the year after. So he's had a lot of success and got lots of podiums. And if you look at his results, I just think it was weird because he had that hype where it definitely felt like when Mick Schumacher, when that Haas seat was free and they were on about, you know, putting in a youngster in, and we all knew the Ferrari connection. Obviously, we all thought it would be Mick because of, let's be honest, you know, his surname did bring a lot of value and stuff. But Robert Schwartzman, in my opinion, was just as worthy of that seat. So, but unfortunately, you know, he's not racing really much this year because of, like Katie mentioned, the sanctions and stuff. So that was probably made things difficult, and it sort of stalled his career somewhat when it was looking fairly good after 2021. So yeah, be interesting to see how he does, and if Ferrari maybe it will kind of like relight a spark with Ferrari Driver Academy, and they still see him in good light and think that he can move up, because let's not forget that there is still a place at Haas.
There certainly is, and lots of talk about that one, as there always is. But yeah, I think 2020, as I sort of alluded upon, was the crucial year for him. If he had managed to win that title, he would have done, you know, he would have won the Toyota Racing Series, then Formula 3, and then Formula 2. But yeah, he just,
as a rookie, the same as
Piastri, as a
so.
rookie, and then he would have, you know, more than likely got that seat over Mick. But yeah, it was just unfortunate that happened, and then because Formula 2 hasn't exactly had the hype it's had for maybe years gone by, where you've had that star driver. It's always felt like, oh, you know, someone's winning after their second year or whatever. But yeah, it's brutal. Motorsport is brutal, and unless you win in your rookie year, you're kind of seen as, oh well, you're not a Leclerc, a Russell, a Norris, or whatever. So
you got to peak at the right time, and there's so much to it. I think Nick de Vries is a perfect example of, you get a chance at a very good time, you take it, and it can completely change your career. So not to say not all drivers are skilled, but there is definitely amount of fortune and how like it all works out, that you've just got to sort of hope your career peaks at the right time when seats are available and stuff.
Exactly. Let's move on now to Alfa Romeo, and they have Théo Pourchaire going into their seat this weekend for free practice 1. Pourchaire's been pretty good, although has been in Formula 2 since 2020. So again, well, I say since 2020, he had 4 races in his first season when he moved over from Formula 3 early. And then finished 5th in 2021, and then 2nd in 2022. Well, so far 2nd in 2022. Yeah, he's been good. I always remember, it's so funny that the only thing that always I remember
exactly
about Pourchaire first. It's him trying to sell his merchandise for about £1,000. No, it wasn't 1,000, but
it was very expensive. Yeah,
more expensive.
Oh, was that him?
It was some jewelry
with like the
or
bracelet.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, here we go. Here we have my bracelet for £30,000. No, whatever.
It was pushing like 100 odd quid, I think it was.
Yeah,
everyone was like,
we love you, Teo, but this is more expensive than Formula One merch. And it's funny that's the only thing that sticks to me so far. But he's obviously also a very good driver as well. He's won 3 times this year, 2 times last year. And probably you'd put him in the same kind of category as Schwartzman in the sense of what he's achieved in his previous years. He won the French F4 championship or the junior championship in 2018. He won the Formula 4 championship in 2019, finished second in Formula 3 in 2020. So he's got a decent racing record for sure, but just lacking that win, give me a seat, which even then doesn't necessarily guarantee you a seat, but it puts you in better stead. But as Tommy says, it's just getting that timing right, and also making the most of an opportunity like this weekend to prove to Alfa Romeo. And of course, it's not just Alfa Romeo that will then chat about how good Teo Pourchaire is, but every link that they have with other teams and whatnot. So it's a big day for him.
I think Teo Pourchaire is probably one of the best in F2 in terms of like people I could see in Formula One. Like I'm under the same opinion as you that it's not a huge amount of like we saw maybe a few years ago when you had Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and Lando, and you knew they were going to get into Formula One. It was just 100%. Like there was no way they were never not. And it seems like these days you watch F2, and I think the driver market is a very good example of this, that all these seats have opened up and they're looking at people like Colton Herta and Nick de Vries and stuff rather than younger talent. And I think, we'd love to see some great young talent getting in there, but I think that does show the sort of place that maybe Formula 2 is at the moment. I think with Pourchaire, the good thing about him at the moment is he's very young. So he's only 19.
He's just a baby.
He is, and he was the youngest F2 winner, I believe, when he won in Monaco.
He won in like 17.
Yeah, he was 17 years old. So he's still very young. He's doing really well. I guess the biggest disappointment is the fact that he didn't win the title this year. And you've got to say, I know Drugovich. I'm not like hugely like wowed by Drugovich and thinks he's amazing, but he won the title by a huge margin. He's nearly 100 points clear, and that, regardless of the fact that Drugovich that's his 3rd season, it doesn't really reflect well on the other drivers that haven't been able to get anywhere near him, and I think that's hurt them more than anything. And yeah, Pourchaire is another one. He started the season with wins and stuff, and you just think like, how are you so far behind in that title? But the good thing is he's got youth on his side, and then you can argue that if he can't get a Formula One seat, if he wins F2, he can't stay in there anyway. So maybe he stays in Formula 2 next year, and then it's time. Really weird that as soon as you win, sometimes it can hinder you, because where else do you go in that gap if a F1 seat isn't available?
Yeah, Pourchaire's a really interesting one. I mean, looking at the F2 season this year, the second half of it, like every time I seem to tune into a race, he'd have an issue, or he'd have crashed, or he's got in a tangle. Like his season really kind of fell away from him towards the end there. But I think out of everyone here, he's probably one of the drivers in the strongest position in terms of actually getting a proper deal with Alfa Romeo. Like he's part of the Sauber Academy already, but for Alfa Romeo, they've only got Robert Kubica, who is, don't get me wrong, an excellent reserve driver, but he's not getting any younger. Although he could continue to put a load of sponsorship money into that team and be there till he's 65. I don't know. And then they also have Callum Ilott, who's now doing a lot of IndyCar, things like that. So if he plays his cards right, I think there could be a potentially really interesting sort of like development or reserve driver role there for him. And that would be a really good stepping stone into Formula One if, some Bottas decides, actually, do you know what? I've signed a multi-year deal, but I've now done 2 years. I'm not really vibing. I'm off. or Zhou, you know, he's had his contract renewed for 2023, but he could do the same. Like they might have given him this extra year and maybe he's just not showing the potential that they thought he could have. And so they could bring him through. So out of the ones that we're going to talk about, I think he might have the most chance of making it into F1. But yeah, I still can't believe he's born in 2003. Like that's just so depressing. It's 19, he's so young. He's crazy. So yeah, the world is his oyster.
It certainly is. It's probably worth mentioning as well, Pourchaire did have a Formula One test last year in August at the Hungaroring, and of course was in contention for that seat for this year. But of course, they went for Zhou Guanyu, and Frédéric Vasseur actually said it was too risky to promote Pourchaire back then. So, it's not the first time he'll be in a Formula One car, but it's certainly the first time he'll be in a proper session. It'll be cool to see how he does. Michael Myers sure is scary, but the last thing you need is to be hairy this Halloween. Luckily, our friends at Manscaped launched their 4th generation performance package to make sure your pumpkins get the ultimate carving experience on this spooky day. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code WTF1. Make the right call this spooky season. It's trick or trim. Have you ever tried to trim your balls and it turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Well, luckily, Manscaped is here to save the day and make sure you're feeling your best in your costume. Unlock your confidence with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside, you'll find the holy grail of men's grooming items. They've made it easy for you to upgrade your grooming routine. It's time to tackle your hairy problem with the Lawnmower 4.0. Their finely tuned pube products features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code WTF1 at manscaped.com. And then we got Williams and Logan Sergeant, who we still think will be that second driver, but they're going to be an announcement soon. Didn't Williams say something? It's going to be an announcement?
Jos Capito, Williams, this is a little shout out, have done an amazing job this year with engaging fans whenever they go to races. Like they have the pop-ups, they have one in Canada, Miami, London, they've got one in Austin. And at these events, they try and either get the drivers to join through a FaceTime or a Zoom or whatever, or put them in the store themselves. And apparently Jos Capito was in this Williams pop-up at the weekend and suggested that there could be an announcement about their second driver on Saturday. So don't hold me to that, because it's only rumours. I wasn't there. But
also, if they're announcing on Saturday, I think we all know, with it being in Austin, who it's going to be.
It's Frank, because he's gone to Austin.
Imagine.
Imagine that curveball. Nicholas Latifi's actually coming back.
The thing is with Logan Sergeant as well, what can he really do in an FP1 session? I guess it's more like behind the scenes work.
Not crash.
That as long as he has a pretty solid run and shows a bit of potential, then it really is looking like I can't really see anyone else getting that seat. And if they're rumoring the fact that they're going to announce it, then it's all the puzzle pieces are coming together. But knowing this silly season, all the puzzle pieces will come together and then they'll announce it's Mario Andretti or something. So that's the way this season's gone.
Great little test in the week.
So Logan Sergeant, he's had a third place in 2020 in F3. He finished in 7th in F3 for 2021. And then he's currently 3rd in the Formula 2 Championship, although looks unlikely to get any higher than that if I was looking at Pourchaire's points, which is currently 164. So no chance. So it's only going to be as good of being 3rd in this year.
I think he's on the super. I know this is one of the things that's really annoying, because there's no set FIA document or website or anything that tells you the super license points. But I know there's talk that he is on the bubble because of the points that he's getting. And obviously, that if you look at the F2 Championship this year, like you say, he's 3rd, but it's very close between. He's on 135 in 3rd, and Liam Lawson is only 10 12 points behind him, and he's 7th.
So apparently he has to finish in the top 5 according to this
exactly.
article that I'm
so
looking
it can
at.
really easily not get the super license points.
But then I'm seeing another one saying that he could finish 6th in Formula 2 and still get super license points.
Yeah,
that's the confusing nature.
To Winter Series and all this, and to top it up, and no one knows. So I guess if they announce him, they're confident that he will get enough.
It's almost as if the super license points system is confusing and rubbish. But yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Logan Sergeant, but he's probably the one I'm least excited for, just purely because I don't know. He's not really done a huge amount prior to this.
It's not hugely exciting. I think it's
if you're an American fan, it's exciting because he'll be the first American in F1 since Alexander Rossi. And obviously we've
everyone
seen
loved Alexander Rossi.
But we've seen such a big growth of F1 in the States. So yeah, maybe they think it could be a good marketing move. A lot of love over there.
Well, I think, Tommy, you covered this off maybe, I can't remember, quite a while ago in a podcast when we spoke about it, and you were saying, oh yeah, the American fans will love him for all of 3 races or something.
Yeah.
And then
no, like you said, you went to Miami and everyone's cheering Verstappen and Hamilton and stuff. It's the
but then we didn't. There's no American driver in at that point.
No,
it
exactly.
may well all change. It may be a Logan Sergeant.
You never know.
They may be loving them. Loving
the
him,
Sergeant Steam Train. I'm trying to think of like.
This is your new high. Sergeant Steam Train sounds like a Thomas the Tank Engine character. Anyway.
Cool. Good luck to Logan Sergeant. Next up, and finally, Haas. Antonio Giovinazzi is going into the car there. How is that a rookie?
We're not talking about rookies. We're just talking about people
new drivers.
in FP1.
New drivers, new faces. Okay, I was going to say, I was like, yeah, Haas don't need to, or won't be able to tick off any boxes with Antonio Giovinazzi, that's for sure. But Gio's back in the car. Whoop.
Again, the new American
loving that.
Yeah,
Gio does one Formula E race, and she's like, yeah. Yeah, Gio. He doesn't seem like he's heavily rumored to be getting that Haas seat. Bizarrely, it seems to be Hülkenberg that's the one that's getting a lot of talk of that Haas seat. Yeah, Gio's the one that's jumping in the car all the time and doing these sessions. So who knows? Maybe it's just a little thank you from Ferrari. Just makes
cheers.
Look good.
Yeah, thanks so much for your hard work. Here's
sorry we couldn't keep you at Alfa Romeo, but here's a Haas drive.
Here's a Haas drive. Yeah, we don't need to cover really too much about Gio, I imagine, because everyone knows Gio, and he used to race in Formula 1 and couldn't beat a old Kimi Räikkönen. So
yeah, we said it
every time.
Everyone knows our opinion of Gio. Lovely guy,
great guy
hair.
though.
Great
honestly.
Hair.
Oh, it sounds like the Nutella thing.
It does.
Yeah. God, Tommy's so sarcastic, isn't he? Bless him. Right. And finally, probably just worth mentioning, loads of teams, as Tommy said at the top, haven't really decided or announced all of their FP1 drivers. But ones that have been confirmed are Pato Award for McLaren in Abu Dhabi, Felipe Drugovich for Aston Martin in Abu Dhabi, and Pietro Fittipaldi for Haas in Mexico and Abu Dhabi. And that does tick the box, even though he has driven
He's done
Formula
one
car,
or
Formula One race
one
before.
race. I think a rookie is if you've done more than 2.
So Haas have put in Giovinazzi and Fittipaldi have both done Formula One races as their rookies.
Well, no, they're not putting Gio in as their rookie, are they?
No, sorry, as FP1 drives. So
just as a banter drive, I think, for Gio, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, out of Pato Award, Felipe Drugovich, Pietro Fittipaldi, are any of them getting an F1 drive? Probably not.
No.
No,
definitely not.
No.
Drugovich maybe.
maybe.
You can't say maybe and then
no.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Pato Award, no. Fittipaldi, no. Drugovich, a slim chance of maybe a Haas or something.
In like 10 years when
10
Alonso
years.
retires.
10 years.
When Alonso retires.
Okay,
yeah.
So Alonso retires at 51 years old. Impressive.
Yeah, L plan.
And finally, we've covered all that FP1 stuff, so hopefully you enjoy it. It's actually later today, isn't it? This podcast is going out pretty much straight away. There's still loads more talk about the cost cap and Red Bull's breach of the cost cap and What we've now heard is that the FIA have offered an agreement for a penalty, basically, to Red Bull for their alleged breach, or it's not alleged. They think they've spent more, and Red Bull still don't think they have. So it's now at a stage where Red Bull sees this agreement confidentially, of course, even though there's loads of hearsay and articles and blah, 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 all this stuff you read online. You go, is any of this even true? Probably not. But they've been offered something. Now Red Bull have to decide whether they accept the penalty or they appeal it to an adjudication board. And then it continues on, because Formula One is simple. Woohoo. The whole thing it's a bit weird, isn't it? It's a bit weird to be publicly told that there's this offer on the table, but no one knows what the offer is, or any confirmation of what the FIA think Red Bull have done. There's this whole 1.8 million flying around, and it's sickness and it's catering and it's stuff like this. That still seems to be floating in the atmosphere, but in the grand scheme of what a budget is, I don't know how those two are the ones that are allocated to be the ones that sent them over. I've also been reading some things about the fact, again, this is complete and utter hearsay, but I've been reading that something around Red Bull expecting some sort of reimbursement from the government, and they didn't get it, and that's what caused them to go over, and all this sort of stuff.
Blame Liz Truss.
Yeah,
she's leaving now.
She's an easy scapegoat, so maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it's just all a little bit. It's a shame, really. It's a shame for the sport to have another thing hanging over what, is Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's been unbelievable this year and deserves the world title. And again, last year, it's all up for debate as to who deserved that world title. But I think you can safely say Verstappen and Hamilton both deserve the title. And hopefully both their teams, well, I say Mercedes have, but hopefully Red Bull have also been in line with the rules. But this is the whole thing. It just has this whole kind of murky, vague, fans throwing dirt at each other when they don't really know the truth. And unfortunately, we just have to wait. And no wonder fans get irritable and start assuming things when we don't have clarity or transparency.
It's been going on so long as well that it's just people really want to know what's going on. And it is just classic Formula One, where it's very slow to sort of decide what the breach is and what the punishment is, and it's delayed and been delayed, and then now the heavily rumored, of course, it's still not 100% confirmed, but pretty much every publication is reporting that they've been offered this accepted breach agreement, which basically is we'll give you a punishment and we'll hear no more of it. So yeah, it could be the whole chaos of what they're going to do. This is huge for Formula One, and you've got Mercedes saying that we'll just spend way over then if you can get away with it, and equally other teams going, well, and Red Bull obviously saying that, oh well, it was only catering and we just got caught out by tax. And to be fair, Red Bull's still adamant that they didn't, which is a very interesting stance when the FIA clearly think they have. So yeah, and all this talk of what's going to happen and could they be disqualified from the whole championship, it's very much seeming like it looks like it could just be a case of we never get to find out, a bit like the Ferrari engine thing.
We don't talk about that, Tommy. That was confidential and in a sealed envelope.
And so is this will be by the sound of
it. We don't know. Well, isn't it only if they reject it or something? Obviously
they accept it. If they accept
then
it, yeah.
We hear, and if not, it goes to another board. I think it doesn't help either when fans aren't being given clarity, and then people like Zach Brown start slinging mud at the FIA and Red Bull and everything else. And it. Of course, we're going to latch on to anything we hear. And I feel like they either go down the route of they don't tell us anything until a decision's made. Like they don't start this, they don't set something on fire and then just leave it for a while, or they give us clarity the whole way through. But what we're getting here is like clarity. Oh, hold on. Wait, what? No, you've just led us down this path and now you're going to stop before we've even, and then we get irritable. So yeah, I don't know. It's just Formula One
I
things,
can't
isn't it?
understand. I just want a day without, some controversy in Formula One. Is that too much to
Just
ask
want
for?
racing,
But yeah,
Drive to Survive gonna have a field day over this as well. By the way, like it almost feels like this is just set up for it because there's not the juicy title fight. So this is probably going to lead most of the thing.
Yeah, you just know they're going to come up with some sort of like money pun for one of the episode titles or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Cash is king.
Happen.
We've already had Cash is king.
The catering.
Checo.
Oh gosh,
Checo.
yeah,
Good one. Yeah.
I saw Adrian Stewie, which made me laugh. So I'm just going to
Adrian Stewie.
So I'm just going to share that one. I'm so sorry, I don't know who it was, but I saw that on Twitter, and that still makes me laugh now.
That's really good.
It was really good, eh? But yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of like just how the FIA seems to be running nowadays, where they're like, yeah, you better not break that rule or there's going to be consequences. And then someone breaks the rule and they're like, oh no, we have to think of a consequence. Like there just seems to be no forward thinking about like what happens if they break the budget cap. Like I don't know if it's an easy thing to do because Red Bull seem to have been the only one that have like gone over it by quite a margin, but why was this not the first thing that they spoke about? And they were like, right, okay, so if somebody goes over the $145 million, what shall we make them, like, what will the consequence be? What will the sanction be? Let's make sure that they instantly get their points from last year, taken away or blah. I just don't understand. Like Formula One is a sport where everybody tries to jump through every loophole or jump through every hoop and find every loophole going. And now that's happened, and it's like FIA, like the John Travolta gif of him like looking around, just like not knowing what to do.
It's a really difficult situation, I think, with this cost cap, because I think the cost cap in general is a really good thing for Formula One because it stops the big teams spending and spending and spending, and the big brands being able to dip into their never-ending wallets. I think the problem that they've had is that, where do you have leniency for genuine mistakes or genuine errors or whatever? And it's not just a case of, okay, this team spent over by £1, you are now cheats. Like that's where you also have that other side where you go, the difficulty of weighing that up, where you go, okay, if you spend £1 over, you're disqualified. That's it, straight up. Don't make the mistakes. Like they either go down that route. You either go down that route and that's it. You don't allow for any mistakes, any problems like that, any tax rebates or whatever the hell's going on. That one rumor of things, or whatever. Like it's a cost cap for a reason, and they've been speaking about it a lot on the coverage and whatever. That $7 million, up to $7 million, is a minor spend. I think Martin Brundle was saying it on Sky, and he's been also saying, well, that's a whole development sort of season for a lot of teams. So yeah,
you can't blame that on the Christmas party.
It's a really difficult situation, and I think the FIA need to tighten up those rules. There's no surprise that there's been this kind of, oh God, what do we do now? I mean, the rules are there, but
rules. If they're like, people otherwise would just say, oh well, Red Bull got off lucky because then they changed the rules as a result of Red Bull going over them. From like, they should have been there since the beginning. If you go over, you're going to get A, B, C, D, and you could lose your championship or whatever it may be. Like Ross Brawn was saying, but it needs to have actually been done.
Well, I know why they didn't know is because they didn't want teams to measure whether it was worth going over it. So that's why those.
It's the equivalent of like if you to put it in racing terms rather than like court stuff. It's equivalent of like if you said that penalties should all be the same. And if you jump the start, you get a 5-second time penalty, then everyone will just go on the first red light and just yeet it into the first corner and try and lead and go, well, I'm going to save 5 seconds in a race. And I guess that is the similar thing because teams would just weigh up. But that is equally what Mercedes are now sort of arguing against, that if Red Bull get away with this, that they'll just say, well, actually, we'll spend £500 billion next year, make a rocket ship, and if you want to take off half our points, it doesn't matter because we'll win the championship by over half. So yeah,
I've seen some amazing memes and videos of like, there's like modded R Factor stuff, and it's like, Mercedes when they release their 2023 car and it's a spaceship.
F-Zero.
But it's a really difficult one. Like the FIA can't say it has teeth and then not provide the teeth when the rules are broken.
Give them dentures or something. And just...
Literally, I've seen some great memes again. It was like one tooth just hanging off, and it was like, these are the teeth and things like this. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of learnings from this. But the problem is, whatever penalty is given this year will also be, just like with stewards' decisions. It happened in this race, and this is what the penalty was given. And then, whoever reaches the cap next year will then go, well, you only gave Red Bull 100 points constructors taken off or whatever, which would actually not affect their position whatsoever in the 2021 title. So it's a horrible situation, and one with which I would not want to be part of the FIA for, because they've made the rules and now they have to do something about them.
That's Katie's job, to become.
You do sleep with the rule book,
and you can decide, and you can just dish out the punishments.
Yeah,
just get rid of all.
Hit
of them.
Him over the head with an annual.
Link in the description. US predictions.
I want to promote it as a weapon of.
Yeah, please do not use it as a weapon.
Terms and conditions.
Don't.
Annual is not a weapon.
No, it's not. It is hardback though. My two predictions: Hamilton podium, and Verstappen doesn't win. Katie, what are yours? Well, I mean, one has already happened.
I was going to say Katie's on for the double.
Imagine if you'd have said arrived on a horse. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, I don't think it counts. You didn't say horse.
You said going full US actually. So
yeah, and I said has to be. It was like I even played a little gamble because I didn't want to be too predictable, and said for the 1 point he has to be wearing a cowboy hat and have some, like funky facial hair, and he did both, and he arrived on a horse with a man and a guitar. So yeah, everybody's saying I think this qualifies as a point, Katie. I was like, it's 100% a point, full point, and I don't want any arguing.
Well, technically you've written he's going full US, which is United States.
He had a freaking jacket on with
you didn't technically specify America though.
And you've written it. It could be going full us. Like, are you saying that Daniel Ricciardo was actually dressing up as W? I mean, look, there's lots
he was
of
dressed up
as
me. Like he was there walking Frank into the paddock.
And, the founder. So well done, Katie. And what was the other one?
Logan Sergeant announced at Williams, so we'll have to wait and see.
That'll be a double point. Boom. Tommy,
I don't know. We'll see.
You need to stop going for predictions that we can already go over and before we've even got into the weekend.
Katie's just
I'll come up with a really crazy.
Katie's like, I don't do
Mexico.
Racing anymore. I'm just going to do how the drivers are addressing.
I'll do 2 racing related ones in Mexico, and I'll get no points. Okay.
Oh, please, because you're hunting me down very quickly.
I was going to say you're really.
I was going to say somebody actually figured out how many points we all have, and I think Matt, you're like half a point ahead at the moment.
Yeah, and Tom is like 3 days behind.
Because I've basically
like 300 points behind.
Yeah.
It's because I've been making predictions that aren't Hamilton podium.
Good.
Verstappen doesn't win.
But
it's a 50-50 chance.
Tommy, you should know the game by now.
I know.
You really should.
Yeah. Don't hate the players, hate the game.
We even allowed for you to get double points for this next prediction.
Exactly.
So don't stop crying. What are yours?
So 1 Red Bull, 1 Mercedes, and 1 Ferrari on the podium. And I said that order, for double points.
And if it's wrong, if it's in the wrong order, it's no points.
Yeah, no points.
Okay,
I've got to gamble now. So here we are.
Yeah,
this is the situation I'm in. Both Haas cars out in Q1.
Nice and optimistic.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And the fans, M Wallace 997, Mercedes to top at least 1 practice session, Kingsley _420, Perez win, and surge to Group 1. Track limits will be an issue. There you go. That was actually quite a long podcast for us, considering we weren't talking anything about racing. It was just talking about FP1 slander and stuff. But good luck to all of the rookies / returning drivers / new faces in general for in about a few hours' time. In fact, when does FP1 start?
8 p.m.
Okay, so less than 4 hours to go. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast, everybody. Lots of love. See you on Twitch live tomorrow for the qualifying watch along. Sunday for, of course, the race watch along for internet best reactions, and also go pre-order the annual. Link in the description, but don't hit anyone with it. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.